All right, I'm going to give it 1 second to just connect to all the channels before we go live this evening. 4 check marks. Waiting for the fifth. And spinning wheel. And we're good. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Broncos country. This is a special solo version of the Mile High Huddle podcast. I am Zack Kelberman. You know me, hopefully fairly well. Scott, who was going to be filling in for me, he's dealing with some family biz tonight. Chad is still out on vacation. So y'all are stuck with me solo. Don't X out just yet. We have a pretty interesting show tonight talking about, are the Broncos really contenders? Are they pretenders? Are they going through a rebuild? One ESPN NFL insider has the answer, but I'm going to give it a second because it is solo tonight to let the comments come in, address some of y'all. Please be patient with me tonight, guys, because I don't have a producer. I'm going to be going through the comments myself. I'm also still a little under the weather, so if I'm not projecting, let me just turn my phone on silent. That would be a good start. Just bear with me, guys. We're going to have a really fun show tonight. We got DVA in the house saying, "Sup, Broncos country." Make sure you hit that like button on the way in, share on all platforms, and subscribe if you haven't already. We got David Youngkin in here. We have John Lopez, Rodney Garcia, DTR, William Catalano. Who else? David McElrath, the Papa Bear. Good evening, Broncos country. Zach Dillon and Deacon Scott. Buckham ×3. MHH for life. Denver Broncos for life. Good to see you, David, as always. String Guy, good evening. Michael Rooms, a Zach solo show. Good stuff and can't wait. Appreciate you. I think this is Ernie May saying, "Hello, Zach. Go Broncos country only." Appreciate you, Ernie. What's up, Michaela? Good to see you, John. Good to see you, Daniel. And Woofy. So again, it could be a little bit of a slower evening tonight. Again, it is a solo episode with just me, and I want to talk about what Jeremy Fowler said. I'm going to hop right into it. So if y'all have any super chats, y'all have any questions, comments, concerns, or considerations, get it in. I'm going to try to keep up as best I can throughout the course of the next 45 minutes to an hour or so. So jumping right in. The title of the podcast, Contender or Rebuild, ESPN reveals thoughts on the Denver Broncos roster. What's up, Pearl Heater? Good to see you. I'll be in and out, she says. We'll hope to see you tonight on the podcast. So here's the thing with the ESPN article, and I'm having trouble screen sharing, so I can't show y'all. It is an ESPN premium article or whatever. So basically, Jeremy Fowler divvied up every NFL team into different tiers. The first tier being the contenders, the championship teams, yada, 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 going down. And the Broncos are in the category of stuck in quarterback purgatory. Joining them in that category are the Falcons, the Patriots, the Steelers, and the Commanders. And that's not even the lowest tier. There's other ones. So it seems like what Jeremy Fowler is saying here, just on the tier ranking alone, that they're not that far off. But I want to just drill down word for word on what Fowler said. Quote, "Whew." That didn't sound right. He said, "Whew. What's not next? The Russell Wilson saga promises to be popcorn chopping entertainment. Sure, the Broncos can keep him in the fold for 2024, knowing the quarterback room will be awkward after last year's benching. Virtually no one around the league expects this, since it would lock in $37 million in 2025 guarantees. Or they can pay him $37 million of 2024 guarantees to go away, knowing offsets in his contract will be minimal, with prospective teams leveraging Denver's guaranteed money against him. There's no easy solution, and trading him is an arduous task. The money paid to Wilson handcuffs a team that must go cheap at quarterback, either with veteran Jarrett Stidham, another veteran, or a draft pick." And he points out the average age of the Broncos roster is 27.0. They have negative $24.7 million in 2024 cap space, and they have 6 projected picks in the 2024 draft. So it is kind of a slower time. And I see some of you are disagreeing with the categorization of the Broncos. Some of y'all see contender, some of y'all see pretender. I think what Fowler is saying here is that the Broncos aren't a quarterback away, but for an 8-9 team that, went through its struggles on offense last year with Russell Wilson, went on a big winning streak, took down some of the biggest teams in the NFL. I think Fowler is a little higher on the Broncos than most other national media, and the Broncos roster boils down to their success boils down to quarterback. And he's not breaking any news here. There's not much to really go on based on this blurb. But what I can say, my opinion, is that we all knew this. It's going to be hard for the Broncos to move forward in the wake of Russell Wilson's contract. They can pay him money to go away. They can pay him money to be a highly paid backup. They can try to trade him, even though no team is going to give up any sort of draft picks for a player that more than likely will be released. And Fowler is adding that they're going to go with a cheap quarterback, Jarrett Stidham, or a draft pick. So again, not much that we don't know, but I think my takeaway from the article is that they're not that far off. If they can get the salary cap straightened out, which, easier said than done, if they can hit on a quarterback, it will offset some of the damage in the post-Russell Wilson era. We got the boss man here, Chad Jensen, hopping in. If I could just click on this, I don't know, my computer is being weird today. Good to see you, Chad. $20 super. I miss Earmuffs, Zack. I miss you as well, Chad. Love y'all. I hope you're all doing well, and I can't wait to talk with you soon. We miss you, Chad, as well, and I hope you're enjoying your vacation, making a lot of music, a lot of good hits. We'll have to hear about that when you get back, but appreciate you as always, my friend. We also have MBLEX Test Prep, $5 super. Appreciate you. I don't know if that's Zachary Smouse or not, but regardless, appreciate you. The trade down fans got to realize Peyton does not trade down. He trades up and gets his guys. He's traded down only a couple of times, May in Denver soon. I understand that. That's definitely a valid comment that Sean Payton gets aggressive when he wants his man. The thing is, the times in New Orleans when he got aggressive, and I don't profess to know everything about the Saints in the Sean Payton era, but he had more capital with which to work. He had more assets. The salary cap situation was the same. The Saints were always in salary cap hell, but they found trade chips. They found a way to make the moves. And it's impossible to make a move of that magnitude when you're talking about Drake May, to move in the top 2 or 3 when you're sitting at 12. You don't have a 3rd round pick. You have 1 pick in the top 75. You haven't had a 1st round pick since 2021. Yeah, you can mortgage the future again, but is May the guy that you mortgage the future for? Is Sean Payton that blown away by Drake May to make such another franchise-altering move on the heels of 2 franchise-altering moves? But I agree with the premise here. Sean Payton is not going to sit around idly. Yeah, he's rock-solid job security, $18 million a year. We all know that, but he wants to win. He doesn't want the stink of the Broncos in the post-Peyton Manning era to be wafting toward him and stuck on him. He wants to preserve his reputation. He wants to show what he can do, and he wants to go out and I think hone the reputation that he built in New Orleans, which is you're alluding to here as a guy who gets aggressive, gets his man, and then succeeds with him. So we'll see how the quarterback carousel plays out for Denver, but I really wouldn't hold my breath on a move of that magnitude. I just, without trading PS2 in that deal, it's definitely cost prohibitive for a prospect that is not generational. May does have his warts. He's not, Andrew Luck coming out. So we will see how that transpires. I want to give another quick shout out to some of the other comments here. Facebook user, what's up, Zach? What's up, Facebook user? Says I'm about to, I don't know why my mouse is not working today. About to chime in and send a super on YouTube. Appreciate you. Looking forward to that. William Catalano says, some guy said today he could see Knicks falling into the 2nd round. I mean, anything can happen. Anything's possible in the NFL, but all it takes is one quarterback desperate team. And there are many in this league. It's a quarterback-driven league to fall in love with Bo Nix and make him a 1st-round pick. Hell, maybe make him a top 15 or top 12 pick in Denver's case. He could fall. It could be a draft day slide, but for someone that has his ceiling and his physical tools in the right offensive system, he could be the guy. I don't see him falling to round 2, but like I said, crazier things have happened. Now, I want to give... talking about diabetes by Marin. That's definitely spam. What else we got here? Michaela, good to see you. And while we're kind of vamping here, let me know what you guys think. I know I jumped right into the Jeremy Fowler topic off the rip, but not a lot going on today. Still a slower period in Broncos country, at least until the upcoming scouting combine where NFL general managers, decision makers, shot callers get together. We could see some movement on the Russell Wilson front. But how do you view it, Broncos country? After the 8-9 season, moving on from Russ more than likely with either Jared Stidham or a rookie quarterback, do you think the Broncos are closer to full-blown contender or full-blown rebuild? I think, I know the answer, but I'm interested to see what y'all say. String Guy says, the only way I trade up for a player package is for a player package like PS2, Simmons, JJ Bull. That is the only way you're going to do it, String Guy. They don't have the capital to make a trade without including one of your foundational players. And no offense to Simmons, Judy, Bowles, they aren't on the same level. They don't have the same value, league value, as a PS2. If you want Drake May, if you want Jaden Daniels, if you want Caleb Williams, if you want any of the big three quarterbacks coming out, you are going to have to resign yourself to trading up and trading PS2 in that deal. If you like PS2, you're going to have to resign yourself to that. We cannot have our cake and eat it as well. Maybe if the Broncos would have finished 5-12, 4-13, if they didn't go on that winning streak, this would be a different conversation. But the only way you're going to sniff a quarterback of Drake May's magnitude is parting with a player like PS2. And you can argue, great player, maybe future Hall of Famer, but how much have the Broncos really won with PS2? This is not a cornerback-driven league. It is a quarterback-driven league. The guys who throw the ball, not the guys who stop the ball being thrown. I would like to keep him, but if Sean Payton signs off, if Sean Payton says, listen, George Payton, I am 1,000,000,000% convinced that Drake May will lead us to the promised land, that Drake May is a foundational, generational franchise guy. And the only way to get him is to go to 3 or go to 2. And the only way you do that is saying bye-bye to Patrick Surtain. Who wouldn't sign off on that? In Sean, we trust. He is the one making the decisions. He is the one running the offense. He is the one who's handpicking his next quarterback. So, String Guy, I don't know how you feel about PS2. Obviously, I think, you're okay with it. You're warming up to the idea of parting with that talent. But there's no way in hell, guys, that you're going to get a quarterback in the top 3 without parting with PS2. And, I see people, it's a difference of opinion. A lot of Broncos country is split. There's people like Desert Creature saying goodbye PS2, quarterback's more important. There's others like, Tanner here saying do not get rid of PS2. He is one of the few homegrown talents the Broncos have. Again, the next Champ Bailey, whoever, future Hall of Famer, don't get rid of him. Keep him, take a quarterback at 12, trade down, whatever. Just don't mortgage the future and give up PS2 in the process. So it could really go either way. And it has gone either way in the discourse of Broncos country. Though I will say my personal opinion, again, you're not going to win anything. You're not going to win crap when you're sharing a division with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and insert player here for the Raiders. You're not going to win anything unless you have your franchise guy under center. Let's see. I saw something very generous to Michaela. Thank you so much, Michaela. $49.99 super. The Duchess coming through with authority, holding it down tonight on the solo episode of the MHH pod. Michaela says, how come people say we're still contenders when we have to get rid of all valuable assets, players because of a salary cap? I wouldn't be surprised if for the next few years, we will have the first pick in the draft. Welcome to the bottom of the barrel. It's first of all, Michaela, it's a very layered question, which I very much appreciate. We can use the conversation tonight. This is one person's opinion. I don't want to put words in Jeremy Fowler's mouth saying that he thinks the Broncos are contenders, but where he lumped them, the quarterback purgatory, is where they've been since Peyton Manning retired. They've been a quarterback away or not for the past 8 seasons. So this is one national media member's point of view. He has sources. He's very plugged in, but this is where he thinks the Broncos are. Stuck in quarterback purgatory, still waiting on that guy with a decent roster around him. Though if Fowler was more in tune like we are, Michaela, with the roster, like in Broncos country, they're not a quarterback away. They're a quarterback and some offensive linemen and a receiver and a tight end and defensive line, linebackers, cornerback, safeties. They have holes throughout this roster. So that's where I also tend to agree with the people that say, listen, Don't sell the future. Don't give up all of your draft picks. Don't Ricky Williams this draft for a quarterback when A, that quarterback is no sure thing, and B, there are much bigger holes to fill elsewhere. So there's two schools of thought, Michaela, though I don't think, and you say bottom of the barrel, I don't think it's possible when you have Sean Payton as your head coach. And I'm not even giving that much credit to Sean Payton. He's not, I don't think he's the best coach of all time in the NFL. I do think he's one of the best, but you're talking about a Broncos team, Michaela, the same Broncos team, same quarterback, same everything for the most part, that went 5-12 with Nathaniel Hackett and Jerry Rosberg, that experienced a 3-win improvement just with the basis of decent coaching. So as long as Sean Payton's here, and this is a good or bad thing, depending on how you feel about the draft and having a top pick, as long as Sean Payton's here, I don't see the Broncos being that terrible. They might be 7-10, 8-9, 9-8, middling like some of the years in New Orleans. But as long as he's here, and with whatever quarterback is under center, he's going to squeeze juice from that lemon, and they're going to be at least a competitive team. So once again, I appreciate your comment, Michaela, but there's two schools of thought when it comes to the Broncos, and you obviously fall into one of them, which is extremely understandable. All right, I'm going to go through Eclipse Stormborn here. Happy Monday, Priest and Broncos fam. Thank you so much, Eclipse. $5 super. Russ to Pitts for a second, a fourth. Then the Broncos trade the 2 seconds and a fourth to Chicago for Justin Fields. You had me kind of when you talked about trading Russ to Atlanta for a second and a fourth. Even though I don't think any team is going to give up a second-round pick, let alone 2 picks for Russell Wilson. If the Broncos cut him, when the Broncos cut Russ, I can absolutely see him signing in Atlanta. A team full of weapons with a better coaching staff now that Arthur Smith is gone. And if they can get that defense turned around, playing in a dome, I can see Russell Wilson landing there. So trade out of the question as far as I'm concerned. And then the second part, and this is, again, a matter of opinion, I am not a Justin Fields guy. I don't think you can salvage Justin Fields at this point of his career. You're not talking about a quarterback that has 1 or 2 starts like a Trey Lance where the jury is still mostly out. You're talking about a quarterback who's had multiple seasons now to show what he can do. And you could talk about the coaching malpractice in Chicago. There's some talent there. There's some there. And I don't think Fields has ever capitalized on the there. Great athlete, great runner, exciting player to watch. But he would drive Sean Payton absolutely crazy. If Sean Payton didn't like Russell Wilson playing off schedule, playing backyard football, taking sacks, hits unnecessarily, playing a little reckless, not playing in the confines of his system, he would not stand a second for Justin Fields, who is like a younger Russ, but way more erratic and not nearly the same player as a passer. And at this point, you're going to give up 2 second-round picks and a 4th-round pick for a guy who has not demonstrated he's an NFL caliber passer. Eclipse, how would that move the needle for the Broncos? How is that better than taking a chance on a rookie quarterback, no matter who it is? Because all those rookie quarterbacks, every single one in this draft class, the top, 5 or 6, from day one, they are better passers than Justin Fields. And last I checked, passing is a quarterback's number one responsibility. Nothing else. Not running, not making plays in a video game fashion. It's throwing the ball, completing passes, and staying in the strictures of Sean Payton's system. This is another hotly contested debate in Broncos country, Fields or no Fields. I have not been a Fields guy. From 2021, I said the Broncos made the right call taking Surtain over Fields, and I'm not about to start, getting on that bandwagon, and I'm not going to start pining for a player that is not it. They need to be aiming higher than another reclamation project, another sloppy second, another gamble. I am done with that. Completely done. All right. Now, okay, so Michaela, I am not sold on Sean at all, Michaela says. I just want to apologize, guys. Again, I am getting over a little bit of a cold still, and my voice is kind of already giving out. It might sound more annoying than usual. So, again, just bear with me. I am trying to do my best. And just that's the way it is for now. But Michaela says, I am not sold on Sean Payton at all. I don't blame you, Michaela, necessarily. I know you take kind of a cynical view of the Broncos, but I think from your point of view, not to put words in your mouth, you expected Sean Payton to come in from day one and make the Broncos what they used to be, a playoff team, 10 plus wins, no doubt about it, slam dunk. And they weren't that. They missed the playoffs again. They had another losing record. They benched their quarterback, and now they're going on the quarterback carousel again. All the while, they gave up a first and a second for Sean Payton and paid him $18 million a year. I can only tell you what I feel, and I think I have a pretty good intuition based on my experience covering this team with the coaching staff. They are in good hands. They finally have an adult. They finally have a guy who knows how the sausage is made in the NFL, where your bread gets buttered, and how you win football games. And the only way you're going to win, Michaela, is if you have that quarterback. So you could be skeptical, you could be cynical, you can take this view, but let's at least see what Sean Payton's plan is at quarterback, what move he makes to address the biggest Broncos Achilles heel, the most important position, not just in football, but of all of sports. Let's at least give Sean Payton enough time to pick his own groceries and see what he does there, and then we'll judge. Mike Edel hopping in, $10 super. Thank you so much, Mike. Hey, Zach, great work as the Lone Ranger. Appreciate that. Here is another perspective on PS2. We are eventually going to have to give him a blockbuster contract. PS1 doesn't want his son in Denver, so why not trade him? This is the other school of thought here. And Mike, you're kind of speaking my language, and this is where I gravitate to. You're 100% right. As it stands, PS2 is going to be one of, if not the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. Do you cut that check in the next couple of years when you have roster holes abound, when you're figuring out quarterback, when you're trying to get by on cheap cost-controlled contracts? Do you turn around and give a player that hasn't been responsible for one playoff appearance, let alone victory, that sort of money? I don't know. And then there's also, like you said, Surtain Sr. made some waves, doesn't exactly like the situation his son's in, which I get it, but that's been in his ear now for a year. And I think that PS2 is rightfully taking counsel from his father, who played in the NFL, who knows about the business and the brutality of it. And if he gets that little birdie, it could be a toxic situation. So that's the other school. There's, keep PS2 by all means necessary. He's a lockdown cornerback. You need him. You got to invest in the players that you drafted. The other perspective is he's your biggest trade chip. His value might not be higher. You don't have to necessarily cut that check just yet. And if you want a quarterback, that's your easiest path to getting that quarterback. So again, it's two schools of thought. And Mike, I see where you fall in that bucket. And I'm coming around to agreeing with that. Desert Creature hopping in, $10 super. Thank you so much. Zach holding down the fort. If Russ is cut, then can he be picked up by the same teams that are picking highest in the draft? Is this correct? Yeah, Desert, if Russ is cut, he'll be free to sign with any team of his choosing. It actually happened today with two Patriots players, Lawrence Guy and Adrian Phillips. Because they were cut now, they get kind of a head start on free agency. So let's say Washington's in the market for a quarterback, New England, who, Scott and I talked about this. If a team in the top three signs a veteran, maybe they'll be out of the market in the draft and the Broncos can swoop in. So to answer your question, yeah, and the Patriots were loosely kind of connected to Russ as a potential suitor by ESPN a couple months ago. So absolutely, if he's cut, which is looking like an inevitability now, he'll be free to sign with whoever as soon as possible. So that should be interesting. And if he goes to a team in the top three, maybe not Chicago, they're going to take Caleb Williams. But if he goes to New England, if they think they're a veteran away with a solid defense, makes things mighty interesting for the Broncos to maybe move up for Drake May. All right, I'm going to do Jay Roper says, take a drink, Zach. You know what, Jay? I'm going to take a second to heed your advice because I know my voice is getting weak. So hopefully that's better. And yeah, String Guy, like You sound like you're starting to lose your voice. Yeah, again, I'm still getting over a cold and it's kind of just draining into my throat. So I know it's not the best time for me to go solo tonight, but I wanted to hold it down for y'all. I was not going to miss a show and not keep you waiting until Thursday for the MHH pod. Appreciate you, Michael. Appreciate you, Facebook user. Eclipse is I think I convinced Eclipse about Justin Fields. LOL. Okay, so that's a no for Fields. That's my opinion. I mean, let me know in the comments, guys. What do you think? Would you be okay with the Broncos trading for Fields, or do you think he's you know, irreparable and unsalvageable? That's kind of where I'm standing with him. All right. What else we got? I see Michaela again. Michaela, you are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. $4.99 super. We are like the Rockies. Put out a crap product while they raise the prices on the tickets. No way I will wait years and hope for a miracle. That's your prerogative, Michaela. Absolutely. If you don't want to spend money on merchandise, on tickets, on supporting the Broncos, hit them where it hurts. I'm not going to tell you how to be a fan. You are entitled to feel however you want. Though my advice would be, again, let's see what happens this offseason. Free agency might not be that great. It might be slim pickings there. But what they do in the draft can and will shape this team for years and maybe even decades to come. So if they hit it out of the park in the draft, Michaela, just be open to your tune changing a little bit as the months go on. Appreciate you, Michaela. The other Michaela too. Who else we got here? We got Malcolm Brown. Hello from the Philippines. What's up, Malcolm? Appreciate you tuning in all the way from Panataran. I don't know. Hopefully that was close enough, but definitely appreciate you tuning in. Facebook user says, I want a quarterback in the draft. Doug is kind of speaking to Michaela here. Tough times are part of being a fan. Things always get better. Yeah, I mean, you can argue. I'll speak for Michaela. It hasn't gotten better since Peyton Manning. We were led to believe that Paxton Lynch would be the answer. Case Keenum would be the answer. Joe Flacco would be the answer. Drew Lock would be the answer. Teddy Bridgewater would be the answer. And Russell Wilson would be the answer. And they were all part of the problem. We still don't have solutions, and we're still no better than where we were in 2016 with the remnants of that SB50 roster and Trevor Siemian starting at quarterback. So I do think the Broncos tide will turn. And I've been saying this for a couple of years now. I know I sound kind of silly because I've been saying, yeah, the Broncos are going to be back to where they were. Yeah, they're going to be in the playoffs. Yeah, 11-5, 11-6, 12-5. Yeah. And I've eaten crow on that. But at some point, they got to get it right. And with Sean Payton picking his own groceries, another year of Sean Payton instilling his culture and taking more of a firm grip on the franchise, I do think the tide will turn. And I do think things will get better. Eclipse says, just to be clear, I was saying Russ to Pittsburgh. I'm sorry, Eclipse, if I misread your message, if I misinterpreted. Again, that's another team in the Steelers that is definitely in the market for a veteran. They're going to add some competition for Kenny Pickett and maybe Mason Rudolph there. I'm with you, but I don't think he's going to get traded. I don't think the Steelers would give up any sort of compensation for a quarterback that is more than likely going to get released. Now, if he gets released, I can 100% see him signing in Pittsburgh. Offensive weapons, at least they have a good running game. They have one pretty good receiver. Offensive line could get better, but a great defense. That's a situation where a 36-year-old quarterback can go in and be the hold the fort guy and maybe lead them to the playoffs. So if he gets cut, Steelers are 100% a certainty, or a possibility to be a certainty. But to trade him to Pittsburgh, that's a little illogical. And then to use those picks, if I'm interpreting you correctly, to trade them to Chicago to get Justin Fields, that's a non-starter for me. We'll see if George and Sean Payton agree. We got James saying no on Fields. I agree with that. Roy Osborne saying, I think Fields would be too spendy and a reclamation project. That's another part of the equation as well. At some point, you're going to have to pay Fields, whether you're Chicago, Denver, or another team. So you're giving up draft picks for a reclamation project, the epitome of a reclamation project, and then you're going to have to turn around soon and then pay him a quarterback commensurate salary, $35, $40, $45 million a year? No way. I'm not paying Justin Fields $20 million a year. And that's maybe my own bias. I'm not a fan of him, I just don't want anything to do with that player when you can take a quarterback in the draft, preferably in the first round, so you have the fifth-year option. And over the course of those 4 or 5 years, he would be making that rookie a fraction of what you'd have to pay Fields or what you'd have to pay Russell Wilson for that matter. So it's really not difficult. And I don't know that there's any discussion that should be going on within the walls of Dove Valley. Identify your quarterback, who is the best fit, who can lead you to success, who's going to work the best with Sean Payton, and take a freaking chance. Just because you failed with Paxton Lynch and Brock Osweiler and Drew Lock doesn't mean you ignore the draft and ignore that position and never try again. It's baseless, cowardly logic that bad teams use to stay bad. You got to be bold and you have to take a gamble. It's as simple as that. All right. So I'm still going through the comments here. Taylor Christensen, $1.99 super. Thank you so much, Taylor. Veteran quarterback hasn't worked in Denver. Draft a quarterback. Exactly. This is not to crap on any one of y'all who want a Jameis Winston or Sam Darnold or whoever, Trey Lance, Fields, whoever. But, and yeah, we have Gabe saying, except Peyton Manning, right? Peyton Manning, Gabe, is a unicorn. Peyton Manning will never happen again in terms of that caliber of talent, a first ballot Hall of Famer, arguably the best quarterback in NFL history, or at least top 3, making it to the open market. So yeah, that worked well. There was almost no chance that it wouldn't work well. But Peyton Mannings don't come around very often. And in fact, how often has that happened? Not very often. So yeah, it did happen with Peyton, but if the Broncos are using that logic that they're going to wait for a Peyton Manning to hit the market, or they're going to hope that Sam Darnold at 26, 27 is going to suddenly morph into the top 5 pick he should have been, is insanity. It is the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And Gabe, you can point out Matthew Stafford. You can point out the rare exceptions to the rule. But for every Matthew Stafford and every Peyton Manning, there are 100 Case Keenums, Teddy Bridgewaters, Joe Flacco's, quarterbacks that don't work out. That is why it hasn't worked. Take a chance in the draft. You're picking 12th. You finally have a first-round pick. It's a top-heavy class of quarterback. There's a few guys here that really could mesh well with Sean Payton. Take a freaking chance. And if it doesn't work out, you can do what the Cardinals did with Josh Rosen, which is draft a quarterback again next year. Because if this guy doesn't work out, and if he's a bust, you're going to be picking fairly high again anyway. You got to keep swinging and swinging and swinging until you hit that home run. So Taylor, I don't mean to get, emotional with you, but I agree with your comment here wholeheartedly. Mike Edel, $5 super. Thank you, Mike. I don't think Fields is a Sean Payton guy. I really feel like we're going to take a swing on draft day. Go MHH. I watched a lot of Bears games because I had fantasy purposes. I had a couple Bears players, and the dude is flat out bad. He'll make a couple decent throws that make you maybe reconsider that he could be something. But for every one of those decent throws, there's 10 that make you scratch your head and in disbelief. And you're wondering to yourself, how did this guy ever even make it to the NFL? How is this guy? How is he a first round draft pick? So a difference of opinion. Some of y'all are Fields fans out there. I get it. But if you watch him, if he drives you crazy watching his film, just imagine what Sean Payton would feel. Sean Payton benched Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson has more talent as a passer in his pinky than Fields has in his body. Sean Payton benched him, shoot him out on the sideline, and now he's going to move on from him. If he couldn't stand Russell Wilson, he would not make it a week with Fields as his quarterback. Arthur says there's a reason you're not the coach. There's a reason that I'm on here talking, Arthur, and you're not. There's a reason that I know to use proper grammar, and you don't, apparently. I'm not claiming to be the coach. I'm giving my opinion. And again, Broncos country can have a difference of opinion. That's fine. You can want a free agent franchise quarterback and hope that the next Peyton Manning or Stafford will be out there. You can hope they go after Fields or whoever, but I don't. And as long as I'm on this show talking to you, as long as you're seeing my face on here, I'm going to tell you how I feel. Sorry about that. Taylor, $1.99 super. Hey, Zach, why is Darnold even being considered? Because he's younger. He was in the Kyle Shanahan system for a year, and he did well as a backup. He'd be cheap. And a couple talking heads in Denver and some other national media members have connected the dots. That's the only reason why I think you'd even consider Sam Darnold. And my question is Sam Darnold a better quarterback, a better bridge, holdover, fort guy, whatever word you want to use? Is he better than Jarrett Stidham? Take away the contract. They'd be about comparable. Is he better than Jarrett Stidham? I don't think so. And the goal isn't to get by with a Sam Darnold or a Jarrett Stidham. The goal is to build up a franchise quarterback that you can win with for 10 or 15 years, that can go toe-to-toe with the Mahomeses of the NFL. I don't see Sam Darnold doing that. And I don't see Jarrett Stidham doing that for that matter. The only quarterback that can do it is someone in the draft that they hit on. And yeah, they have to get it right. There's no exact science to it at all, but at least the Broncos are in good hands with a quarterback whisperer and someone that always makes lemonade out of lemons. That's the only reason why I see Sam Darnold being considered, because he'd be cheap. He's from the Kyle Shanahan system. He had a decent year as a backup, and he has the draft pedigree. I don't see why you would spin your wheels and stay in purgatory, stay in neutral, instead of going forward. You have a Sam Darnold on the roster. You have a Jameis Winston on the roster. You have whoever, insert name here on the roster. His name is Jarrett Stidham. He's a temporary solution to a permanent problem. The permanent solution is the guy that you're going to get in the draft. That's my take on it. And we have Scott. We're going to get a surprise late appearance by Mr. Producer himself, Scott Kennedy, hopping in just a second. There he is. What's up, Scott?
Sure. I come in late and you're here on time. How does that work? I'm like, oh, Zach's probably only been going for 10 minutes or so. He likes to roll in about 8:30 Eastern time.
Had to throw a curveball in there.
Yeah, there you go. I've been watching some baseball, some freshman versus JV, and the boy had a decent night, 2 for 3 with a double, a couple RBIs. So here I am. What did I miss? Are we talking contend or rebuild, or did you already blow through that already?
I blew through that, and now I'm just ranting and raving about Sam Darnold and Justin Fields, Scott. So that's maybe you can provide some insight. We've seen the Sam Darnold speculation connection. Why would they consider, in your opinion, Sam Darnold?
The gigantic ego of Sean Payton is one of the best things I can think of. I can take a quarterback and turn him into something. And this was a guy who was a top 3 pick not too long ago. And so the talent was there, and he just needs to be put in the right situation. Now, I disagree with that. My evaluation on him coming out was way off of what he ended up going for and trading up for, et cetera, et cetera. I think he's a career backup, and God bless him for it. You've already got one of those on staff who knows the offense, who's making decent money. Just roll with Jarrett Stidham. And if you want to go get a younger quarterback, which you have to, you've got to get another quarterback no matter what. So be it. And we're talking Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields still has some untapped potential. I'm not ready to give up on him. I think he's got a chance to still be a player in this league in the right situation. And I don't think a rebuilding Bears squad has been the right situation. So I'd be okay with Justin Fields. But I've said miss me on Darnold since before the draft.
Yeah, I saw a super I wanted to hit real quick. John Blue 999. Thank you so much, John. So we are contemplating trading PS2, a first-round talent, just to go after a so-called Big 3 quarterback that could end up being Trey Lance or Zach Wilson. Why not stay at the current pick and draft McCarthy or Penix? John, there's no guarantee that McCarthy or Penix are going to be anything other than Trey Lance or Zach Wilson. And the presumption is you're going to get a bust with one of the Big 3. The other presumption is you're going to get the next Mahomes with one of the Big 3. You don't know until you know. But I think we agree on one thing here, whether it's McCarthy, Penix, one of the Big 3. Scott, you said it last night. I agree. You got to come out of this draft with a quarterback.
Right. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, okay, It doesn't have to be. When I say that, because I also vehemently preach against, and I try to be clear on this, and I don't know how clear I was talking about where your evaluation meets your quarterback. Okay, if I'm picking at 12 and the next quarterback, the top quarterback I have on my board is 35 on my list of available prospects, then that's a pass. I don't take that guy. That's a reach. If I'm picking at 75 and all of a sudden, hey, I've got a guy on my board that I rated at 60 and Spencer Rattler, that's a take. And your probability, the farther you get down your board, the probability of you hitting, John, because one, you've got to get that quarterback. The probability of you hitting goes farther down the line, but I'm talking baseball here. I'd rather have my 3-hitter up with 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth than my 8-hitter, but I have a chance still with my 8th hitter.
Right.
And I have to send someone up to bat. And by rules say, I have to get a quarterback. I have to take a shot. He might not be the guy, but I can't come out of this with status quo. My chances of hitting might be 75% in the first round. It might be 20% in the 6th round. But I got to take that 20% chance in the 6th round. I have to. And if I don't hit and the 80% comes to, I do it again. I take another guy in 2025. But you have to take a shot, even if it's a long shot, because where the board falls, where you're picking, you don't want to reach, but you have to take a shot at some point.
And guess your percentage when you don't take a shot at all. That'd be a big fat 0. Yeah, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. Is that how the expression goes? And also, AJ Money here, Zach, I think this year is going to be a good turnaround with Peyton getting his system and everything he needs offensively and defensively. He is going to make a big difference. I hope he does right with the picks. And that's, Scott, I know you weren't here, but that's kind of the message I was sending Michaela about not being that skeptical, not giving up on the Broncos completely. I understand having your doubts about the last 8 years or so, but with Sean Payton in charge and finally getting another year under his belt in Denver, and with the picks he's going to make, hand select his next quarterback, I think we'll see a turnaround sooner than later.
And I'm sure you hit on this, but it gives me a chance to say thank you to so many of our Super Chat Hall of Famers, Mount Rushmore folks like Michaela when I come do the evening shows. And I'm sure you hit on this a little bit. It says, how come people say we're still contenders when we have to get rid of all the valuable assets players because of the salary cap? That's the thing. You really don't. They might not want to come back, and that might be the issue. Garrett Bowles, the 3 big contracts that are from players that are from key players are Cortland Sutton, Garrett Bowles, and Justin Simmons. You can bring all of those guys back on extensions that would lower their salary cap to minimal, to a fraction of what it is now, get under the cap. And then, as ESPN put it, and Jeremy Fowler put it, you're in quarterback purgatory. You still need to get that quarterback. And then you're in a roster where you've got some pieces, you've got a good place where you're not that far away from contending if you get the quarterback spot right. That's not all that bad. And in yesterday's show, last night's show was Zack, we went through the numbers. I can front load a lot of the hit of his cap, of Russell Wilson's cap, and still have an extra $20 million in 2025 that I wouldn't have had if Russell Wilson was my quarterback. Now, the problem is you are in that quarterback purgatory. You don't have the quarterback yet. That's why you got to keep swinging until you don't reach. That's the one thing I will say is don't reach. If your board says this guy should be a 3rd rounder, don't take him in the 1st, but take him in the 3rd and take a shot at it. So, Michaela, thank you so much for everything you do for us here. Here's a salute to you, and I know you're upset. I get it. I do.
I'm just circling back on some of the comments that I missed earlier. Sean Williams says, hey, Zach, thanks for holding it down for the crew. Thank you, Sean, for tuning in. I think Bo Nix is our guy. We need a top competitor to quarterback. And this is what I was talking about, Scott. Broncos country is so divided on who the next quarterback should be. There's some who want the Justin Fields and the Sam Darnolds. Others want one of the big 3. Others want Bo Nix or McCarthy or Michael Penix. But, Sean, your last sentence is spot on here. They need a competitor. They need a top guy under center.
I think the first 3, there will be some arguments within the first 3 at quarterback with Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels. However, I think the majority of the fans where those guys get picked will be happy that they got that quarterback of those 3. After that, it doesn't matter who it is. it doesn't matter, unless it's a throwaway 7th-round pick that nobody cares about anyway. It's like, oh, whatever. It doesn't matter who it is, whether it's a veteran or whether it's a rookie, there's going to be a divisive opinion on those guys. That's just the nature of the beast. That's the nature of the talent of guys that are out there. There are red flags on everybody. You name him, and I'll give you 3 red flags on each one of them. If they weren't, they'd be going higher than what they are. They wouldn't be QB 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in this quarterback carousel. It doesn't mean you can't succeed with them, but there will be divisive opinions on them no matter who it is after Daniels, May, and Caleb Williams. And frankly, there's some division on those guys, as well as some very organized smear campaigns come out before the draft trying to push those guys down.
Yeah, 100%. We have David Youngkin, $1.99 super. Everyone is getting hyped over the lack of talent. That's probably true, David. I appreciate you pointing that out. Also, Gary Palmer, the GLP, $9.99 super. Thank you, Gary. Hey, Zach, you're killing. Appreciate that. Agree on PS2. Now, Scott, I went into a rant when you weren't here about PS2. And, there's 2 schools of thought. You either keep him and not make him a part of a big trade for one of the big 3, or you realize that you haven't really won squat with PS2, and the only way you're going to get one of the big 3 or your next quarterback is including him in that deal. Where do you stand on that?
I don't think you're getting one of the big 3, period. I don't think it's happening. Things change between now and then, but as it stands right now, each one of the teams picking in the top 3, Chicago Bears, Washington Commanders, New England Patriots, also need a quarterback. They're saying all the same things that every other quarterback team do. Whatever it takes. Do whatever it takes. Trade whoever it takes to get your quarterback. Otherwise, we're screwed until we get our quarterback. They're all saying the same thing. So why would they give up a spot when they've got that guy they don't have to give up anything. All they have to do is just write the name down and take it to the commissioner on Thursday night, on draft night. So I don't think you're getting into those spots. I think if you start selling before the draft, Garrett Bowles, trade. Justin Simmons, trade. Cortland Sutton, trade. Jerry Jeudy, trade. I'm shedding myself of all of these, let's say, guys that are key players, but also haven't won anything with the Denver Broncos. I've entered full rebuild mode. It's going to be 3-4 years before I'm competitive again. What is my best chip in full rebuild mode? 2+ first-round picks for Pat Surtain. That's what it is. And even if it's not for the quarterback, let's say I take Bo Nix. I get a guy. I take Bo Nix at 12, and I trade Pat Surtain for a haul to the Dallas Cowboys because they are in a spot where they could be an elite cornerback away from really competing and taking the next level. The Detroit Lions, whose defense has let them down and could be a Pat Surtain away from the Super Bowl. They give up 2 firsts and change. You're thinking about it. I'm not saying yes, but it's under consideration. If I enter full rebuild mode, my best asset for rebuilding before he gets the biggest contract ever for a cornerback is trading him.
That's what I was going to say. It's like you can debate whether the Broncos should trade him or whether they're going to make a play for the big 3, but you can't debate the fact that he's their biggest trade asset, and he would bring in the picks to make that pathway possible. I'm not
even saying I would do it. I'm saying you have to consider it. Your job as a general manager is to consider all options. And again, we're going to know a lot. We opened the show yesterday, Zach. The next 6 weeks are going to be fascinating to tell us the direction of the Denver Broncos and what they plan on doing.
Tyler Brooks says this Russell Wilson experience will at least clean house for all players who can't get it done. At least, Zach, agree. It's Sean Payton's way or the highway. And if you're benching Russell Wilson and you're eating the salary cap or the dead money because Sean Payton deemed that that's what they should do, then it sends a message to the rest of the locker room, just like by trading away Randy Gregory, cutting Frank Clark, is if you don't perform, you are out of here. And that's the standard the Broncos need, Scott.
Yeah, and good luck trying to get a similar deal somewhere else. Russell Wilson's going to get cut, and he's going to get a quarter of what we were paying him. If you don't want to play ball, then go somewhere else. That's fine, right? McManus, McManus took a pay cut to move on. What was he? He was on about 2.2. Garrett Bowles is on a $20 million contract, and he may want to try and push that. Dalton Reisner was thinking he's going to be an 8-figure guy. I said 2. I think he signed for 2.5 eventually with the Minnesota Vikings. So they've got it good in Denver. The problem is they're not winning. So you're either going to do it this way or you're going to be gone. No one is untouchable. Not even a guy with $150 million in guaranteed money. If he ain't untouchable, nobody is.
We have Patrick Wiltsey hopping in. Lioncoffee.com, guys. Check it out. It's the coffee of the MHH podcast of all of us. Scott drinks it. I drink it. It is the coffee. Lioncoffee.com. Patrick says, Aloha Broncos verse. Is it too soon to get excited about the draft and trades? The only I don't see many trades to get excited about, Scott, because you're dumping off players, not really acquiring them. But the draft, certainly. And that's something that gives us a little hope for this season is they're in a decent position, the Broncos, 12th overall, to finally get a quarterback, and they're in the market for a rookie quarterback. They're not going to, hopefully, God willing, spin the wheels again with another Sam Darnold, Fields, etc. They're going to go get a guy they can hopefully build around. So I am excited about that.
Yeah, I don't see really any reason. I can, what is it? A $5 million cap savings if you move on from Stidham. And, you know, if you can get Baker Mayfield was making nothing last year. It was like $2 million or something. I can't remember, though, if he was already on dead money, counting as dead money for the Browns. So he may have already been compensated for last year. Kind of like Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson may only get $2 million next year, but he's getting paid $40 for 2024. Is it too soon to get excited? I think, again, what the trades signify, if the Denver Broncos start trading the likes of Garrett Bowles, and I'm not going to say just one. If you see 2 guys go, then we know that they're shopping a lot of guys. If one guy goes, that could just be Garrett Bowles is last year of his contract, and we want to get something for him before he goes. We're going to trade him for what we can get. Justin Simmons, he's asked to leave, whatever. One guy is different. Jerry Jeudy, we've been trying to get rid of him for 2 years anyway. But if we start seeing several of those guys go, you know you're in full rebuild mode, and it's time to start stockpiling draft picks and building depth for this team where you don't have any, including the interior defensive line.
For sure. Eclipse, $5 super. Thank you so much, Eclipse. That's, I think, your third one tonight. Let's say the Broncos get some veteran quarterback, Cousins or whoever. If the Broncos stay at 12 and Latu is still there, do they take him or a quarterback? Eclipse, it's going to be a very wet blanket answer for me, but it's not. It doesn't matter what I think. It matters what Sean Payton thinks. And we don't really know who's on the board in this scenario. If they like a quarterback, that guy is going to be atop everybody else, Latu included. We just don't know if that quarterback is going to be there and if they like any of them enough at 12. Otherwise, Latu would be a decent pick, Scott, though I do worry about his injury history just a little bit.
Eclipse, this one's a little different, okay? So when you think of what the New York Jets did with Aaron Rodgers, they are going all in on trying to win. They made a big trade. They're paying him a ton of money. They're not going to draft a quarterback. They're going to try and get someone to help them win while Aaron Rodgers is still on the team because it ain't going to be for much longer. That's the boat Kirk Cousins is in. You're not going to get Kirk Cousins because Kirk Cousins is going to be a $40 million quarterback next year. So he's out. So I'll say this for other teams because there are other teams that need a quarterback. If you go after a $40 million quarterback, you're not drafting a quarterback in the first round also. That's just, you're going to get your best prospect available that's a non-quarterback because your window is now short. It's a small window with a 36-year-old quarterback who's making $40 million. I got to do everything I can to maximize that investment and win now. Win right now. If I have Jarrett Stidham, if I have Sam Darnold, even if I get Justin Fields, but if I have a smaller investment in the quarterback, then I'm still looking to the future. Then quarterback is absolutely on the table. Kirk Cousins, no. Pretty much anybody else, yes, quarterback is on the table.
We have a few more minutes, guys. I know we're running kind of long because I was ranting and raving for a few minutes there. I want to just address a few more questions. Wolfie Malad asks, is it true the cap is increasing? Yes, it was at about 224 in 2023. It's going to go up to anywhere from 242 to 250. So there's going to be a dramatic increase in the salary cap, which is going to be a definite benefit for the Broncos.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why you might backload the contract, the cap hit. You take a smaller cap hit for Russell Wilson's contract because you're going to take a 2-year hit one way or the other. I'm still of the opinion you take as much as feasible while still fielding a competitive team in 2024. And then you've actually got savings. People talk about cap hell. It's 1 year of cap hell. And it's really, and the thing that people don't understand, or at least gloss over, when we start talking about the ability to acquire new talent via free agency really doesn't have anything to do with moving on from Russell Wilson. It has everything to do with Russell Wilson's contract anyway. You made a huge investment in Mike McGlinchey. You made a huge investment in Russell Wilson. You already spent all that money. So if Russell Wilson was here and playing well, that's the difference, is you have no money and no quarterback. Instead, you thought you would have no money and a quarterback. You're still in the same boat because of the cap hit for Russell Wilson would make it cost prohibitive because you haven't done anything right now, Zach. You haven't done anything with Russell Wilson. Where are you on the salary cap table right now?
Negative
$22 million.
Yeah.
That's so being up against it really doesn't have anything to do with moving on from Russell Wilson. It could get worse in 2024 when you do move on, but then 2025, you actually have more money, a lot more money, which is why you benched him in December and decided to move on, because you felt that I would much rather have that money and go a different direction at quarterback and have an increase in ability to spending it in 2025. That's why you make that move.
Listen, Russell Wilson's like the liquid version of penicillin. We don't want to take it. You got to plug our nose and just swallow it down it and hope it all gets better. But we got Michael Ronquillo. Great show tonight. Zack and Scott on the MHH podcast. Go Broncos. And Michael also 50 straight weeks Facebook stars. Michael, you are the absolute man. Thank you so much. The ambassador to the whole MHH network of podcasts. We appreciate you more than you know.
Yes, thank you, Michael, for everything you do for us, the support you show every single day. It's like, I don't know, you might not like this one. We've given you all kinds of nicknames, but you're like a rooster for us in the morning. We can count on you, with the sunrise, man. Maybe that's better. Michael Sunrise Ronquillo, it's dependable. That's one of the best compliments I can give to somebody. And we love you for it, Michael. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael. David Youngkin, $4.99 super. If Denver moves back, they can miss out on all three quarterbacks, JJ, Bo Nix, or Michael Penix. That's the chance you take. It is. And also when you consider the fact, Scott, right behind you with 13 are your rivals, the Las Vegas Raiders, who are in the market for a quarterback. And I've been beating that drum for a couple weeks now. If you move down from 12 to, let's say, 20, you're gifting the Raiders a quarterback prospect. It might not be who you want, but you're still allowing them to pick up a quarterback. So that's the risk you run. And that's why if they don't move up to the top 3, I am perfectly fine with staying at 12 and taking the best of that bunch.
I wanted to look real quick see if I can find it. Smallest to largest round. I've got this screwed up because I hit an escape button instead. I've got a spreadsheet of all the quarterbacks taken and drafted and where they were drafted in the last 25 years. And I'm curious to see what's the most that were taken what's the most guys that have been taken in the first round? Because 6 sounds like a lot. Yeah. If you move back in the first round, I think you got a pretty good chance that you would at least get QB 6 out of that. But again, your question ends up being, how excited I'm going to be about the 6th quarterback taken. That's as you move down, again, it's about probability. That's what the draft is. It's about maximizing your probability for hitting on these guys. And you get rewarded with a salary cap savings on a rookie contract. So, as you move down, your probability lessens. Doesn't mean you can't hit, but your chances get worse and worse. Now, you're hopefully picking up you're picking up more draft picks along the way. So your probability of getting a good player somewhere along the way increases, but your probability of getting the quarterback decreases. What are we trying to do here, Zach? Right now, priority 1 is QB.
Yeah, and we're always talking about Sean Payton, George Payton, and who we don't talk about here is Greg Penner and the Walton Penner ownership group. They want to sell tickets in 2024. They want to put fans in seats. And it's a lot easier to do that when you have quarterback 3 or 4 than when you have quarterback 6 or 7 in this draft. So if you trade down, that is absolutely the risk that you're running, David.
Could probably sort by round and then by year, and that would be the right way to do it. It's
While
hard
you
to
look that up, we have Angelo Perez, 499 super. Thank you so much, Angelo. Good to see you tonight. Trade Bowles, Simmons, Judy, trade PS2 to nab a 24 first plus whatever draft cornerback, Terry and Arnold at 12, and McCarthy with the other potential pick. It takes 2, though. That's the only thing. It's like you got to find another trade partner for Garrett Bowles, who's on a very highly paid contract. Simmons on a very highly paid contract, not getting any younger. Jerry Jeudy, 5th-year option guaranteed, yes, but kind of a head case, hasn't really produced. PS2 is your only asset that's going to get you another first-round pick with the potential, like you're talking here, to double dip in the first round. And that would be, Scott, absolutely great. If you can draft PS2's replacement and then still get a quarterback like J.J. McCarthy, I don't know if he's going to fall to the back end of round 1, but that would be pretty ideal in that scenario.
Yeah, when you start talking about savings and rebuilding, Terry on Arnold at 12, and then if you make the trade again, if it depends. It all depends on how much of a full rebuild you want to go with this. Trades, if you are able to trade those guys, then you are in a full rebuild. But these guys are coming towards the end of their career anyway, so I'm going to embrace the rebuild with Bowles, Simmons, and you can throw Sutton in there also. These are guys on the wrong side of 30. Sutton's still under 30. He's still on the younger side. He should actually be in his prime. But Bowles and Simmons are on the wrong side of 30. There's decisions to be made there anyway, and they're coming sooner rather than later. So depending on what happens with those 3, those are the main 3 you're watching. Is this a rebuild, or are we going to run it back and try and make incremental improvements to try and make the playoffs next year?
Yeah, our Butler's saying, I see that Russ and Sierra put their mansion up for sale. That is a sign that he is already out of Denver. I mean, yeah, Sean Payton can talk about all they want about how Russ wants to be back and they have a great relationship, but it's actions and not words. And when you start giving a player the dreaded vote of confidence, when that player puts his house up for sale in the market, it's a pretty good indication that the divorce is coming. I hate to say it for some of you Russ supporters out there, and I was one, but it's over. It's done. It's time to move on.
David Youngkin says, okay, Scott, how many teams that are in the top 15 that need quarterbacks? All right, here we go. 1, Carolina doesn't need one, but they're going to take one, but that's a 1-for-1 swap. So Justin Fields becomes available. So they need one, but they're going to have a quarterback that is then going to be a pretty hot commodity on the trade market. The Chicago Bears. 2, Washington Commanders. Yes. New England Patriots. Yes. Cardinals. No. Chargers. No. Giants. Sneaky there, believe it or not, with the New York Giants. They've got 1 year left on Daniel Jones, and then they can get out from under it, but probably not that high. They wouldn't mind coming down from that spot or getting a wide receiver and seeing where they can go. Tennessee, I think they're okay with Levis right now. Atlanta Falcons, yes. 9 is Chicago again. 10 is the New York Jets, but they won't because they're going to go all in with 1 more year of Aaron Rodgers at least. Minnesota, depending on what happens with Kirk Cousins. If they re-sign Cousins, the answer is no. If they do, if Cousins goes to another quarterback team like the Steelers, who is looking for a quarterback, then Minnesota needs a quarterback. So of those teams I mentioned, those are all in front of the Denver Broncos right now. Broncos, yes. Vegas, yes. New Orleans, probably not. Colts, no. There you go. Those are the teams that'll be looking quarterback in the draft this year.
I would not
all
be.
Of them will address them with the draft. Some of them will address them in free agency or trades.
I would not be surprised, Scott, if even if the Vikings do retain Kirk Cousins, if they move down in the first round to the bottom and still draft his replacement, because I read today they're not going to give him a fully guaranteed contract again. They like Kirk Cousins. I'm not sure that they love Kirk Cousins, and they don't have a backup waiting in the wings. Josh Dobbs, Jaron Hall, those aren't the guys. So Minnesota could be a sneaky team to trade down, and then at the back end of the first round, pick up a quarterback.
Yeah, if they get Cousins, I think it'll end up being, and Nick disagrees with me. He thinks he gets 2 years guaranteed. And we'll see. If it's over $50 million of guaranteed money, it ends up being pretty much a 2-year deal. I've said it could be like a 3-year, $150 million deal with $45 million guaranteed. That's a 1-year deal worth $45 million. They're using to spread across they're using the other 2 years to spread the cap hit across. So we'll see. He'll end up getting probably 1 year's worth of guaranteed money, and then the extra years on that contract are for cap savings in year 1. John Blue coming in again. John, I feel like this is a newer name, and you're coming out swinging, my man. I love it. Welcome. He says, since Russ wants to remain in Denver, that's an assumption based on, wouldn't assume that. There's a phrase for that by starting an assumption with a fallacy. I wouldn't assume that he wants to remain in Denver, despite any public reports you might hear. That said, maybe he restructures his contract to a cap-friendly deal. We stay at 12 and draft Knicks, Penix, or JJ. Then we keep Patrick Surtain and don't give up all of our assets or picks. He's got a 5-year deal right now that hasn't started yet with all of the guaranteed money. He's been benched and publicly humiliated by his head coach. Dragged through the coals a little bit in Denver. Put his house up for sale. I don't think there's any way he's going to do the Broncos any favors. You restructure when you don't have any choice, or you are backed by your team. Oh yeah, because you don't take less money, you just push it down the road. That cap hit's going to come due one way or another, whether you restructure it or not. That cap hit's coming due unless he writes you back a $50 million check and gives money back, and that ain't happening.
I just don't see what incentive Russell Wilson would have to restructure when the Broncos aren't his only lifeline in the NFL. I know he's not the Russell Wilson of old, Scott, but he could still go on to a team like the Patriots, the Steelers, the Falcons, and step in and be a decent starter for a couple seasons. So he's going to go and get his. He's not going to give back any money. He got the NFLPA involved and made this a very public and messy incident. Why would he stay, and why would he do Sean Payton any favors? But the second part of what you're saying there could very well happen. You don't have to trade PS2. You can keep your picks. You stay at 12 and take the best available, don't kill me, Scott, the best available player of those big three quarterbacks. And if Sean Payton signs off, Sean Payton signs off.
But I call it best available prospect because it leaves in the element of doubt in there. When you say best available player, it sounds like that's a fact. Well, this is the best available player. No, the best available prospect. Prospects still have doubt in there. And you can still say BPA. But John, what you're talking about here is if you get Knicks, Penix, or JJ at 12, you are saving money at the quarterback position in 2025 than if you had Russell Wilson on your team. Russell Wilson's cap hit is $55 million in 2025. Depending on how you move on from him, that number could be as low as zero if you take an $85 million cap hit in 2024. I don't think that's feasible. But most likely it's going to be a $32 million dead cap hit against a $55 million hit. You just saved $23 million. A rookie quarterback in the first round is going to cost you $3 or $4 million. So you just saved $19 million at the quarterback position. So you're on the right track here. But it's not going to be with Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson isn't going to be part of this, especially, I'm going to draft a first round. Will you take less money and stick around? Hell no. Why would I take less money when you bench me anyway? Because you didn't want me. He's gone, but that's why you made the move. Because I can save money at the quarterback position and reset the clock on a rookie quarterback and get my QB of the future. That's why that's happening.
I'm looking at last year's 12th overall pick, Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit. His 4-year rookie contract, Scott, was 17.8. If you figure that goes up to even 18, let's say, that's still 4.5, 4 point something. He would be cheaper than Jarrett Stidham would be, let alone Russell Wilson. Plus, you get the 5th-year option.
I'll do you one better. He's cheaper than Will Lutz.
There you go. That's the way to go, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Cost control.
John, you're on the right track.
Yeah.
But you're not restructuring, you're cutting him. And that's how you're going to get your cap savings. It's just not going to be in year one. Year one's going to be tough. 2024, I'm not going to be able to address my needs financially the way I would like to. 2025, I can start spending some money again. I can start going after several guys. Again, you're about $20 million to the good at the quarterback position if you draft a rookie quarterback and he ends up being the guy. The hard part is getting the rookie that's going to be the guy, because they're all doubts. And even veterans are doubts. You went and got a 9-time Pro Bowler, and it didn't work. So there's risk in everything involved. But you got to play the game, right?
That's
and
right.
then, David, you didn't put me on the spot, brother. That's what I'm here for. That's David, you probably know the Denver Broncos better than I do, but I probably know 31 other teams better than you do. That's what I'm here for. So appreciate the question. And I talked, David, if you want to check it out, I talked the quarterbacks and the teams on Friday. I went for about an hour talking about what I think might happen with about 8 teams and about 10 different quarterbacks, including Russell Wilson, Baker Mayfield, Gardner Minshew, all those guys you kind of forget about that are still out there too. Jimmy Garoppolo, these are the kind of guys, if you go bridge, that you're talking about. And I don't advocate for any of that. I'd rather just have Stidham and draft a guy and take a shot.
Really talking about Jimmy G, I'm going to be nauseous. But we have Slap Yourself here saying they're treating Russ like a side chick in Vegas on New Year's. I don't know many side chicks that are making $50 million a year. So if that's a side chick, it is what it is. C'est la vie. But Scott, we're going kind of long. It's an hour and almost 11 minutes. I think we're going to wrap it up unless you have something you want to add. Any burning thoughts?
Glad I was able to join you, and thanks for holding it down. Sorry, a little bit of late notice, but
all good.
The game times are 5 to 7, and it went 5 to 8. What's better is extra innings, freshman baseball. So it was fun, but it was a pretty good game. The boy had a good day, and I knew you could handle it with plenty of notice. So thank you very much.
Of course, I was on time tonight, but don't get used to it. But that was the MHH podcast. If you're not doing so, please follow us on Twitter at the MHH Pod. You can follow the main account on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. You can follow Scott on Twitter at Scout Kennedy. I'm at Kelberman NFL, and don't forget about Chad at Chad and Jensen. If you haven't yet, cop some merch at mhhmerch.com. Also, check out facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. Drop us a like there. Also, give us a follow at Instagram at mile_high_huddle. And if you're using Apple Podcasts, make sure you're leaving your football priest and our Deacon Scott a 5-star review for a chance to win some of that merch each and every single month. But if anything, y'all, please subscribe, like, and share this video and every video you see on the MHH channel. It really helps us grow and reach more Broncos fans, just like y'all, baby.
Just like you. So shout out to our Super Sat superstars, David McElrath, Chad Jensen. I've heard of that guy coming in. MLBX Test Prep, Michaela several times, Eclipse Stormborn, Mike Edel, good to see you, Desert Creature, David, Gary Palmer, Taylor Christensen, good to see you as well. John Blue several times. Like I said, that feels like a newer name, along with Angelo Perez. Angelo's been in here before, though, so I recognize that name. But John feels like a new super chatter. Welcome, John.
Welcome, John. Thank you.
And off tomorrow for Broncos for breakfast, but Building the Broncos will be back on tomorrow night.
Have a great start to your week, y'all. We'll see you Thursday night. Scott and I will take care. And as always, go Broncos.